I have the great honor in my misspent career to basically to have taught at 4 business schools: UCLA, UC Berkeley, Arizona State, and The Ohio State University. All my students basically know that they insist on an ex-ante basis that they know how they will be graded. All my students know that I'm a big partial credit guy, or, if you will, class participation guy. And basically, in fact, at The Ohio State University, 40% of their grade is based on class participation. Now, based on your tepid response to my morning salutation, you are all sucking a D right now, all right? So you are industry changers and visionaries, so let's try that one more time. Good morning, everyone. Yes, all right, there you go. I'd like to begin, if I could, by saying thank you. First, thank you to Redbird for creating this shared space. I am a classically trained cultural anthropologist. This is not a day away from the office. This is not an opportunity to see cool, well, it is an opportunity to see cool stuff, but we anthropologists call this the post-industrial campfire. All right, so thank you for creating this place where we can come together to celebrate and cerebrate about the future of an industry we all love. I'd like to also thank basically the amazing industry luminaries that we have assembled that I am honored to proceed and follow to the podium. But my final thank you, and the most important thank you, goes to you, the participants, because we know we're presuming upon your scarcest and most valuable resource, your time. So we will make sure that we do everything we can in our humble capacity to make sure that you get a supranormal return on your temporal investment. All right? That's going on. All right? This is a special session. We only do it once a year type of stuff. You are a special audience. You have raised your hand. You have voted with your physical presence to say, like, I care deeply on this critically important topic, which is the future of our industry at a unique, and I'm actually choosing my words carefully. It may not be an unprecedented, but a unique moment in aviation history. I am a futurist, all right? But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not just any futurist. I am an empirical futurist, That means I collect data. And the way I collect data is by listening to people. And you might say, given the Texas thing, my data reeks of human juices, all right? My data reeks of human juices. So, and the way I do that, I'm actually older than I look. I look like a cherub from hell, but I'm actually older than I look. Been doing this for 35 years, all right, type of thing. And basically, to do that, I have found basically the best way to do research is to get knees under a table with somebody, get them liquored up, and talk truth. All right, that's the only way to do it, basically type of thing. And so I'm actually I am not a pilot. You know, I do not own an airplane. I have aspirations, and I understand it's getting much easier now. But I'm actually on the road 280 days a year. Which is I'm genetically engineered for airline travel. I am short and squat and actually like the food type of stuff. So it's just a terrible type of thing. But the reason I do that is to go out and talk to people. And so when I talk to people, and there is so for the past 6 years, I've been involved working with these 6 very interesting institutions, basically. I've been asking a couple questions, couple questions. And those questions is, what has changed, what will change, and what are you going to do about it? What has changed, what will change, and what are you going to do about it? So basically, this session is all about change. And this session is all about the future. But not just any change or a general change. This is about the change that's going to happen to yins. Yins is anybody from Pittsburgh here? I know there's one person here. Yins is the plural of you. I mean, it's not y'all, it's yins. There's a change that happens to you, and it is the future of your industry type of stuff. So ever since I was a child, I've been fascinated with how civilizations, institutions, and individuals prepare for what comes next. And I really have. My background is in studying how these larger changes happen. So you may remember basically the Army of the Orient, or the French Army, visited and liberated Egypt. All right, but they also came with these individuals called savants, and they sort of studied how people dealt with change. And the Egyptians were interesting because, as opposed to the Christians who prayed for basically the next life, the Egyptians actually packed for it. So that's how they prepared for the future. And this we actually saw in a variety of civilizations. But what we found was that was actually not probably the best way to prepare for the future. Because cultures, now extinct, that's a hint, basically, they tended to assume that the next world was going to be just like the one we live in today. And we know that is not true. So a base level takeaway is that we can all agree that next will be fundamentally different from now. All right, so there are three types of futures. There is the three elements of the future, if you will. There's the linear extrapolation of the world we live in today. That's the trend stuff that you see a lot of. There is the OS, or the aha future. You all know that. But the surprise, the unpredictability portion of it. But then there's the change we create. Human agency, and that's the change we're celebrating today in this session at Migration, all right? So here, I'm going to close my very brief opening remarks, if you will, with a question that I torment my students with, all right? Did the people living in the Middle Ages know they were living in the Middle Ages? Now remember, I said I was empirical, so think about it. If you're living in the Middle Ages, you've got a 98% chance of being a peasant, right? So you wake up, you're a peasant, you wake up in the morning, you say, today sucks. If you're a historically focused peasant, you say, come to think of it, yesterday sucked too. And if you're a future focused peasant, you say, and if I live, I'm going out on a limb here, I'm betting tomorrow's going to suck as well. All right? That is medieval thinking, ladies and gentlemen, because in the Middle Ages, basically life sucks and then you die. That is medieval thinking. There's no change. Because basically in the Middle Ages, people had no concept of progress. It just was one big suck, right? That's not where we are, because we're no longer living in the Middle Ages. Here's the thing, headline, we're no longer living in the Middle Ages, right? Basically, and yet many leaders still seem to behave as if we do. Progress, ladies and gentlemen, basically, the defining reality of the modern age is that positive change is possible. And that's what we're trying to do. Positive change is possible. So we are on the edge of something new. And I don't know if you can read this, but this says, dude, I am so not prepared for this. All right, I am so not prepared for this. Now, I'm very, very fortunate. I get to work with several very large organizations. Intel is an amazing organization. I'm very close with the president, Paul Otellini, who's stepping down. Intel, basically, we created a new position. There's a general manager of enterprise capabilities. And his name is Assis Safa, S-A-F-A, wonderful human being, been there for 28 years, great guy. And the capability they're trying to create at Intel is change. Because let me tell you, they just built, I know some of you are from Arizona, had a chance to talk to you. In Chandler, Arizona, in 2012, they just completed an amazing $5 billion fab factory, right? And I went to Aziz, I said, well, how long, that's a lot of money, that's very bold, very courageous. He's like, so how long are you going to, how long is that going to run for you? 2 years. 2 years. That's the pace of competition, that is the pace of change, that is the scale. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the world we're living in, and that's the world we're going to be talking about today.